Lang stood in front of the red door. He felt quite nervous. Oxhead and Horseface, the fearsome guardians of the underworld, had brought him through 18 levels of hell, and now in a few seconds he would meet Yen Wang, the ruler of hell himself. As the massive door creaked open, Lang found himself in a big courtroom with cold white smoke covering most of the place. At the far end of the room, seated on a majestic throne of obsidian, was Yen Wang, a formidable figure with a regal aura that commanded respect from even the most wicked souls in hell. He is a giant to Lang. There are many people around Yen Wang. They are called Panguan. All of these people, though smaller than Yen Wang, but must be at least 3 times bigger than a normal person. On the left side of Yen Wang, Lang saw some Panguan in official costume holding the Book of Life and Death, which records the identity of each soul, names, ages, where they lived as well as good and bad things they did in life. They acted as Yen Wang's secretaries and assistants. When a person coming into the court, they would read aloud his or her identity, help Yen Wang judge the sins of each soul along with the proper punishments for them. On the right side of Yen Wang, there are other Panguan, but they dressed in general costume, holding 9 pieces whip. They acted as polices that keep security in the court, making sure that demons escorted the sin souls to the right level of hell. Oxhead and Horseface pushed Lang forward, and he approached Yen Wang with trembling steps. The ruler of hell gazed at him with eyes that seemed to pierce his very soul. And the Panguan on the left side start to read his record. Lang again heard good and bad things he committed when alive. Suddenly, the Panguan stopped reading. He seems to realize something strange. Thinking for a while, he then whispered something to Yen Wang. After what felt like an eternity, Yen Wang finally spoke, his voice resonating like thunder through the courtroom. Lang, he began, I have examined the Book of Life and Death, and I find that there was an error in your death age. When you were among the living, you were indeed a good person. Carving God and Buddha statues, plus releasing many poor animals, those things would give you 5 extra years to live. Now you are allowed to go back place of the living. Lang felt grateful for Yen Wang's mercy. I promise I will stay on the path of goodness. I really appreciate it, he vowed. Yen Wang nodded in approval. With that, Yen Wang signaled to Oxhead and Horseface, who led Lang leaving the grand courtroom and go back onto a different path to the entrance of hell. On that road, Lang saw a bridge with the sign Naiha Bridge. Before him, and on it, countless souls were crossing to drink from the 5-flavored tea of forgetfulness brewed by Meng Pe, the old woman who served as the guardian of reincarnation. This tea would erase all memories of their past lives before they were sent to be reincarnated into their next existence. Lang heard from some souls about Meng Pe's story. That was a really long time ago when she was still living as normal people. She was called Lady Meng Jiang. Her husband was pressed into service by imperial officials and sent as corvée labor to build the Great Wall of China. Lady Meng Jiang heard nothing after his departure, so she set out to bring him winter clothes. Unfortunately, by the time she reached the Great Wall, her husband had already died. Hearing the bad news, she wept so bitterly that a part of the Great Wall collapsed, revealing his bones. She later died of grief and found herself unable to reincarnate due to her really strong grief. So she asked Yen Wang to stay in hell in order to relieve the pain of life of other souls. With his approval, Lady Meng took the initiative to create this Meng Pe soup, which would allow souls to forget the suffering of their previous life. A Panguan and some demons were in charge of keeping the soul's line moving in order. If a soul commits bad things in his past life, their reincarnation would be animals like ox, pig, chicken, insects, suffering a bad life. If a soul had been a good man when alive, he would have the chance to be human again. And if a soul had been an extremely good person, helping the poor, do good deeds to community in his country, he will reincarnate into rich and good family, be able to stay on top of the society since born. It is not long before Lang arrived at the entrance of hell again. You are a really lucky guy, don't you know that, said Oxhead. Few people can return to their own life after this hell journey. Remember what you promised. Horseface added his words. See you next time, Lang. Before he had the time to say goodbye, Lang was pushed into the black portal. It was already dragon hour when the distant crowing of a rooster pierced the silence, waking Yui Lang. You have just watched the story to Hell of Lang. It is quite an extraordinary journey, isn't it? Now, I will take you to explore more about Hell through its origin, its characters, and lastly, its meaning to Chinese people as well as how it affects their life. Let's start with part 1, the concept of Hell. Hell, Du. Underworld Mansion, Difu. Yellow Springs, Huangchuan. 9 Springs, Jiuquan. They are all words that means the traditional Chinese hell, based on the Buddhism concept of Naraka, is an underground maze with various levels and chambers, where souls are taken after death to atone for the sins they committed when they were alive. The two major faiths of China, Buddhism and Taoism, have differing ideas about what hell is like and how it is organized, but they can both agree on one thing. Those who commit mistakes and build up negative karma throughout their lifetimes must atone for those sins when they pass away. As a result, their souls are cast into hell, a sort of purgatory with many levels which serves to punish and purify souls in preparation for reincarnation. A big difference between the Chinese or Asian hell to Christianity or Western hell is that, in Chinese hell, souls are not necessarily condemned to eternal damnation. While broadly believed in Western culture that sinners have to suffer in hell until the second coming of Christ. The Chinese version of hell is more of a purgatory, where souls are able to eventually leave and be reincarnated back into the world once they have done their time. That is the main concept of Chinese hell. We will dive deeper into the system inside it in part 2, Wang and Yama. The ruler of hell in our story called Wang, his most common Chinese name. Wang full name is Lua Wang, which is a transcription of his Sanskrit name, Yama Raja or Yama. The earliest text that the word Yama appeared was not in Buddhism text, but a Hinduism text called the Rig Veda. It is the oldest known Vedic Sanskrit text. The sounds and texts of the Rig Veda have been orally transmitted since the 2nd millennium BCE, later put into collection in 1500 to 1000 BCE. Yama was originally the son of the sun god, Vivasvat, in Vedic period in India. At first, the sun god wanted to marry Saranyu, another name of Sanjana, the goddess of clouds and twilight. But this goddess could not stand the dazzling sunlight from the sun god himself. So the sun god had to choose a substitute of Saranyu in human form to marry. Later, she gave birth to a son called Yama and a daughter called Yami. Because this substitute was not the real goddess herself, so she had her children under the form of ordinary humans, with flesh and bones. Yama became the ancestors of humankind, as well as the first one to die. Yama had a really important task, that is finding a place for souls of the deceased and the road to underworld. His place at that time was the furthest place of heaven, where was guarded by 2 dogs and listening to music was a common hobby there. It is really surprising to know that was the very first version of hell. Later in 2 major Sanskrit epics of ancient India revered in Hinduism, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, 8th century BCE to 4th century, Yama now moved his place to underworld, which is called Yamapura, understand as city of Yama. Hell in this time resembles the place we now know. Yama wrote the good and bad things of a man while alive, then gave the punishment upon it. And hell system became more and more completed in later Hinduism literature like Puranas. The concept of Yama is the king of hell, influenced from Indian Buddhism, and spread to China from the end of the Han dynasty, in early decades of the 3rd century. In some Buddhist scriptures and Sanskrit ancient books, it is written that in the underworld there are 13 kings, all of whom are reincarnations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, called the 13 Buddhas, in turn responsible for guiding the souls to transcendence. Yama is the reincarnation of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. According to Buddhism, Hell is a place that cannot be seen by mortals but can be seen with the mind, with wisdom, and with Buddhist scriptures. Accordingly, Southern and Northern Buddhism both believe that hell is the place where the deceased go to, belonging to one of the 6 paths, usually drawn on Bhavacakra, wheel of life and death, represent of Sasra, the beginningless cycle of repeated birth, mundane existence and dying again. The 6 paths are the world of gods or celestial beings, Deva, the world of warlike demigods, Asura, the world of human beings, Manushya, the world of animals, Tirya Jayoni, the world of hungry ghosts, Preta, and the world of hell, Naraka. On every picture of Bhavacakra, you can find a demon-like creature holding and biting this wheel with its teeth. That is the symbol of Yama, the keeper of death, the holder and spinner of the wheel of life and death. 6 paths, Bhavacakra and Sasra, are among the most important topics of Buddhism. If you are interested in learning the wisdom behind these topics, just let me know in the comment below and I may make a detailed video about it. In China, the request for Buddhas and Bodhisattvas with gentle and compassionate faces to govern a dark and terrifying place like hell really make things difficult for them. So Taoism integrated their Emperor Fengdu, Fengdu Dadi, and Emperor Dongyue, or Dongyue Dadi, into the Buddhism Naraka. The result of this is a Chinese hell system called 10 Courts of Hell, Shi Jian Yin Wang. There are 10 kings ruling 10 courts of hell directly under the image of ancient Chinese officials and heroes, replacing the original 13 underworld kings of Buddhism. These 10 Yanwangs are subordinates working under Emperor Fengdu and Emperor Dongyue. For those who don't know, Emperor Dongyue is the ruler of Mount Tai, the most important mountain in 5 Great Mountains in China. You can watch my video about Nuwa and Pangu's story to know more about these 5 sacred mountains, and why they are so special to Chinese traditional belief. This new hell system has become the most influential hell system for the Chinese people. What you saw in the previous video were 18 levels of hell, a demonstration of 10 courts of hell. I will put the link in the description for the details of these 10 Yanwang. Yama appeared not only in China but other countries too. These are some pictures of Yama in different Asian countries. First, 14th century Chinese Yuan dynasty portrait of a Yama. As you know it, Chinese call him Yanwang. Second is statue of Yama at Nariaiji, Kyoto, Japan. This temple was rebuilt in 17th century. Japanese calls him Enma. Third picture is a Yama from Songnimsa Temple, Gyeongsangbuk-do, Korea, also rebuilt in 17th century. Korean called him Siwang. The fourth one is a statue of Yama from Vietnam. It was made during the Nguyen dynasties, 15th century. Vietnamese called him Diem Vong. The last is a picture of Yama from Tibet 17th century. The Tibetan calls him Yama Dharmaraja or Kalarupa. In contrast to other Yama image from above countries, Tibetan Yama is often depicted with the head of a buffalo, 3 round eyes, sharp horns entwined with flame, fierce and angry. In his right hand he often has a stick with a skull and in his left a lasso. On his head he has a crown of skulls. I know many people are interested about ox head and horse face. Why ox and horse are the guider of hell, not other animal like dog or sheep? This part will help you have further understanding about them. Chinese people often tell stories of dying people often seeing 2 strange figures stand alongside their beds. Some says that they are black and white impermanence, He Bai Wu Chang, some says those are ox head and horse face, Nyoto Ma Mian. Both of them are the first beings that a newly dead soul encounters upon entering the underworld. Black and white impermanence have their own meanings and stories. Just comment if you want to have a video explain about them. Now we continue exploring oxhead and horseface story. The origin of oxhead and horseface was just a tale of a normal ox and horse in the human world. They are 2 creatures with extremely hard and miserable lives. This is where the term life of ox and horse came from. After many years of devoting and miserable serving to their owner, the ox and horse both died, and went to the underworld. Wang was impressed by the dedication and loyalty of them. He pitied them for their miserable fate and kept them as his staffs. From then on, they became a pair of mini deities protecting hell, also keeping the role of escorting souls when they just died. According to ancient folk beliefs, the image of ox head and horse face also has a deeper meaning, symbolizing illness and old age. Ancient Chinese often compared illness to a taciturn and stubborn ox. No matter how devoted a person is to taking care of his or her health, in the end, illness will stubbornly come and knock that person down. The horse is compared to old age, like a horse that keeps running faster and faster. No one can stop a horse from running to its final destination, and that destination is death. From the moment we were born, each of us has ridden on the back of that horse. In short, sooner or later, every one of us must meet ox head and horse face. No one can escape that truth. One more thing, in China, ox head and horse face also have a slang meaning, that is term used for thugs, hired killers, debt collectors, and protection rackets. So don't use these words towards other people because that is really disrespectful and it could put you in awkward situation. At this last part, I want to tell you about how the Taoism version of hell, or 10 Courts of Hell, affected the ancient Chinese society and festival related to it. The appearance of the 10 Courts of Hell was a very interesting social phenomenon. Although hell made people feel scared, it was welcomed by most Chinese people. First of all, it was due to the reception from the rulers of Chinese society. Those people considered hell to be additional symbolic methods to warn and deter people. Besides that, people from lower class also strongly agreed with the existence of Wang and 18 levels of hell because Wang has become a form of psychological compensation in punishing bad people, especially punishing higher class people who were evil and cruel. Everyone expected the Wang to help them examine and brought all the bad people on their society to the levels of hell. On the other hand, this hell system also had irrational points. Firstly, there were occasions that people mistakes that would be banished to hell right way without further reasoning, those are complaining, crying, and urinating to the north. The second thing was male chauvinist. Originally, there were a female Wang who I mentioned above, that is Yama's sister, she is the ruler of hell for female, but the Chinese ruler gradually erases her out of the 10 Courts of Hell system. Lastly, there were no punishment for bad king, bad royal members, or high-class courtiers. The majority of sin's souls belonged to the lower to middle class in society. Although the hell and ruler of hell originated from India, but Chinese made an unique version of themselves. The names, appearances, and clothing have all been changed according to the style of ancient Chinese people. Even to this day, many Chinese people do not know that the familiar king of hell Wang in their beliefs originates from India. From there, we can see the great power of Chinese in assimilating and transforming foreign cultural elements. Talking about hell, we must not pass the most famous event that related to it, that is the Hungry Ghost Festival or Spirits Festival. The Taoist tradition calls it Zhongyuan Festival, which means the middle inception on the 15th day of the 7th month. The upper inception occurs on the same day of the first lunar month, also known as the Lantern Festival, and the lower inception falling on that day of the 10th lunar month. During this time, many Taoist temples organize large ceremonies to release the souls from purgatory. In Buddhist tradition, it is referred to as the Yulanpen Festival. It originated the Buddhist story of Mulyen who tried to save his own mother from the underworld in the form of a hungry ghost. On this day, offerings are made to Buddhist temples in order to specifically save one's parents from purgatory. Both Taoists and Buddhists believes that on this month, Wang opens the hell gate, so souls, ghosts and spirits, including their deceased ancestors, would leave hell to visit the place of the livings. In return, this is the chance for people to show their mercy to the death, especially the filial piety to their ancestors even after their deaths. Activities during the month would include preparing ritualistic food offerings, burning incense and joss paper, as well as paper form of material items such as clothes, gold and other fine goods. Apart from New Year Festival, Hungry Ghost Festival may be the most popular event over Asia. Japanese called it Oban. Korean called it Baekjung, Vietnamese called it Vu Lan, Cambodian called it Chum Ben. Also, its name of this in Laos is Baun Khao Padap Din, and in Thailand, Sat Thai. We have reached our destination of the journey to hell. I hope you find this video interesting. Please share and give me a subscribe to receive new videos notification. Remember to comment what you think about these Asian hell. Again, I am John. I want to send thanks to all of you guys who has been following and support me for the last 5 months. At the moment I finish this video, you guys helped me reach more than 600 subscribers and nearly 1,200 watch hours milestone. I really appreciate all of that. And thank you for watching till this very last seconds of this video. See you next time.